Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you again for being here on the Awakening of Consciousness Tribune. In international news headlines, things are not going well between Chad and Sudan. These two neighboring countries are entering another phase of their diplomatic relationship, a very dangerous phase. We know what has been happening in Sudan for several years now, through the relentless struggle between the National Army Forces and the paramilitary FSR group. And things are not going well. The army is fighting to reclaim all the territories. From Saturday, from March 22nd to Sunday, March 23rd, the army was able to obviously penetrate into the capital, Khartoum. They managed to enter Khartoum and took control of many institutions. Sudan is becoming a ruin, as you can see in the image. But what surprised the world is this direct threat that Sudan has just sent towards Chad. Sudan threatens to destroy Chad's two airports, and not just any airports. And when we talk about airports, it is truly frightening, because there are people at the airport, and the investments that are made to build these airports we cannot play with. Airports are a part of the lifeblood of the national economy, since the air traffic at these airports is not to be overlooked. So it is these two airports, whose names we will mention shortly, that are targeted by the military leaders of Sudan. And so, in this video conference, this is what we are going to talk about. But I ask you to share it as much as possible in all groups. Share as much as you can. This is what it's about. Don't forget to subscribe and give a lot of likes. So, it's the number 2 of the Sudanese army who threatened to bomb the two airports of N'Djamena and Anjaras. N'Djamena and Anjaras. So, the airport of the capital. At the moment we are speaking, there is real panic on the Chadian side. We don't even know how the Chadian authorities are going to solve this problem. It is in a video dating from this Sunday, March 23rd, 2025, that General Yasser El-Hatta, one of the leading figures of the Sudanese military junta, made statements of extreme seriousness. And the concern is, the airports of N'Djamena and Tanjaras are legitimate targets. These two infrastructures are used by the Tero FSR militia to destroy Sudan. So, it's a very vehement statement. What does Sudan accuse Chad of? They say that the Teros, therefore the other armed group, the armed militia, and the Yamidi FSR, they say that this militia uses these two airports to destroy Sudan. So, if these two airports are turned into military targets from the moment when, according to Sudan's observation, these two airports are military targets, Sudan, the Sudanese authorities consider, in any case, this branch of the Sudanese army considers these two airports as legitimate targets. Legitimate targets. In this sense, they reserve the right to bomb them, because these airports are used by their enemies, by their adversaries, by Sudan's adversaries. And so, what does Chad say about it? For the moment, Chad has not yet spoken. What must be said is that this virulent and unexpected statement comes even as confidential talks between Chad and Sudan have recently been initiated under Egyptian mediation. Egypt was conducting confidential talk between Sudan and Chad, there you go, to see how, as much as possible, to smooth out the differences, and then put the forces in synergy for a quick return to peace in Sudan. So, on the Chadian side, for the moment, no official reaction has been made. despite, obviously, what clearly resembles a declaration of war. It must be said that it is a declaration of war that Sudan has just made against Chad. Thus, it is appropriate to analyze this declaration from the perspective of international law and current geopolitical dynamics. On one hand, Sudan, engaged in a complex internal conflict, perceives an external interference that could affect the balance of forces present. That is to say that Sudan thinks that Chad is getting involved in their eternal conflict. And when Chad gets involved, Chad gives more strength to their adversary. Thus it disrupts the balance of forces present. It weakens the Sudanese army. If elements of logistical or military support in favor of actors opposed to the Sudanese government are indeed established in Chad, it is then understandable that Khartoum considers these installations as targets. Strategically, therefore, Khartoum thinks that there is obviously military logistical support in favor of those who are opposed to the government, and this support passes through Gamina, passes through Chad. So, in this logic, if it is indeed proven that Chad harbors people and Chad still helps those who are opposed to the Sudanese regime to destroy Sudan, it means that Sudan is certainly within its full rights. So, it remains to be verified to see the truthfulness. Is it indeed that these two airports in Chad contribute to weakening the Sudanese army, which is in power today? So on the other hand, Chad's sovereignty must be respected. There you have it. Any military action, any direct military action on Chadian territory would constitute a violation of international law. However, if tangible evidence demonstrates Chadian involvement in the Sudanese conflict, then Sudan's position could be justified in a logic of national defense. And so, here is the situation we are facing. The whole issue hinges on whether Chad is involved, yes or no. But if there is tangible evidence that Chad is involved, it means that Sudan is fully within its rights. But if Chad is not involved, and Sudan attempts to do so, Sudan would be guilty of serious violations of international law. What remains clear is that these statements that have just been made are extremely serious, and we really need to follow this matter very closely, scrutinize this matter thoroughly, and to see what will result from it. Everything that will result from it, we will come back to discuss here on the Tribune of Watchfulness of Awareness. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just have to say thank you to each and every one of you for your contributions to the realization of this video conference. I will be back shortly with new updates. This was the voice of your one and only samurai.